Hello Beasts, welcome to Beast Bodies, your monthly podcast about health and fitness where we answer all your Patreon questions. Today I am not joined by a guest, but that's okay. We're going to talk about resolutions and then we're going to answer your questions. Why resolutions? Well, because it's the beginning of the year and most people who made a resolution already gave up on it. If you Google that, only 8% or even less than 8% of all Americans are able to stick to their New Year's resolutions. And I'm sure that's not different anywhere else in the world. And the problem with the resolution most of the time is that it's more a wish than it is a goal. And a wish is something that you want or desire, but you're not taking any steps towards the fulfillment. The wish fulfillment is absolutely outside of your power. Now, a goal is something that you actively take steps towards fulfilling. So you have to direct efforts towards a goal. That's a big difference. And the trick to reaching a goal and to setting a goal properly is not to overwhelm yourself. Most people do that with their resolutions. They reach for the stars, but they don't actually make a plan on how to get there. And goals can be pretty scary too if they're big. It can be very intimidating to set a big goal and not really know how to get there. So let's take an example and break it down for you so you can see how to set a goal properly. You want to break it down. You want to set your milestones that you can check off along the way so you don't get discouraged, and then you're on a good way to reaching your goal. Let's take the example of, let's say you want to lose 20 kilograms, or that's about 44 pounds. And that's a big goal. That sounds kind of scary, right? It's really intimidating. If you look at it a little bit further, there are 7,700 calories in 1 kilogram, or 3,500 calories in a pound. And a healthy pace to lose weight is about 1 pound per week, or half a kilogram per week, or if you want to have it a little bit more easy to understand, 1 kilogram per 2 weeks. 1 pound per week, 1 kilogram per 2 weeks. That's a healthy pace for most people. And for that, you have to be in a daily calorie deficit of about 500 to 550 calories. Kind of depends on which math we're going with here, pounds or kilograms. So, about. And with that approach, it will take you about 9.5 to 10.5 months to reach your goal of losing those 20 kilos or 44 pounds. That's pretty long. That's almost a year. That is hard to sustain if you don't have checkboxes along the way to hit. So it's smart to break a big goal down like that so you can stay motivated about it. And with this approach, you lose about 2 kilograms per month, or 4.4 pounds per month. That is something you could celebrate. So you could celebrate each month, or you could set yourself other goals along the way, like 5 kilograms. So you have 4 times to celebrate. It kind of depends on, your personal preference, how often you need that reinforcement. Maybe once a month you want to hit those 2 kilos, the 4.5 pounds, and you want to go and treat yourself with a pedicure. And if you didn't hit your goal, you just don't get a professional pedicure and you have to do it at home. That's something you have to figure out for yourself. How do I treat myself? When do I treat myself? How often do I need to do that so I stick with it? And that is also something that you can adjust along the way. If you decide I want to treat myself for every 5 kilograms, which takes like 2.5 months to get there, you might figure out along the way, that's just too long. Let's make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to celebrate every 2 kilograms. And whatever works for you to keep your motivation up. If you don't know how to count calories yet, I suggest that you learn it. I'm going to link in the description box below calorie counters, and I'm also going to link a macro calculator. Those calculators also help you find out how many calories you're probably burning every day. So find out what your base rate is that you need to subtract your calories from. So all of that in the description box below. Losing weight is only one way to set a goal, or a specific amount of weight. That's only one way to measure your goals. You could also set other measurable goals. Because they are just easier to track after you can measure them, like physical measurements. How big is my biceps, my chest, my waist, my hips, my butt, my thighs, calves, even forearms. Those are all things that people measure. Some people even measure their necks. So depending on what your goal is there, you can set a measurement goal. You do the same thing. You break it down. You select the time frame. You break it down along the way. Other types of goals that you can measure are things like strength. How much am I lifting? Like how much am I squatting, benching? Endurance. How long, like distance or time? How long do I need it? How fast do I need to be to get there in a certain, you know what I'm saying, endurance, distance and time. Speed, running 100 meters faster. Or a skill, learning handstand. It's pretty measurable. I couldn't do it, now I can, right? So that's easy, but what's not that easy is to set goals that you cannot really measure. Like, let's say your goal is to feel better overall. Maybe you want to be sleeping better, have clearer skin, less brain fog, better digestion, less hair loss, you know, whatever it is. Those are all things that can be affected by exercise and nutrition. So speaking of health and fitness, those are fitness-related goals that you can set yourself, but it's really hard to measure them like that. And it's also hard to fit into a time frame because every body just reacts differently to triggers and to changing those triggers. And then the only way to really find out what works for you is to experiment. And on top of that, you have to give your body enough time to react to whatever you changed. So let's say you left out dairy for 2 days, you're probably not going to have a huge impact on your body. You're going to have to wait 2 weeks or maybe even 2 months to really see what that change did for you and for your energy levels and all of those things. So those are a little bit harder, especially when you're doing something like that. I suggest you track everything, you write everything down, you write every change down that you did, because it gets kind of difficult, and I'm speaking out of experience here because I have done elimination diets before. It can get kind of difficult to remember what the food number 7 was that you tried to leave out of your diet and then add back in. So writing that down, highly suggested. For all of your goals, track your progress. Tracking is so important. If you somehow, you know, life happens, fall off the track for a little bit, you will need to know how much time you have left and where you left off and how you get there again, you know? So just having all that information right there at your fingertips is so valuable. So write everything down. And what really all of these things that we just spoke about do is they change habits. So it's not just setting a goal and getting there. What we're talking about is really forming habits or changing habits. It's really easy, unfortunately, so easy to adopt a bad habit. You only have to do it for like 21 days consecutively. You just go to bed late for 3 weeks and all of a sudden going to bed late is your habit. Boom. It's so annoying, so frustrating. But the good news is it's just as easy to learn good habits. You only have to do something consecutively for 21 days. And that will register in your brain like, oh, we're just doing this every day now. We get up every day and have a large glass of water. We did this for 21 days or more. This is just what we do, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. So it's a good and a bad thing at the same time. It's easier to replace habits or to alter habits that you already have. Let's say you brush your teeth every morning for 30 seconds, but you want to change it. Your goal is to brush your teeth for 2 minutes every morning. So you're already doing it, you just need to do it longer. So it's a little bit easier to change something like that. If you have a habit of reaching for sweets every morning, it's easier to substitute that habit with something healthier than taking it out entirely. Especially if it's something like sugar that can be going together with a type of addiction, you know. So habits are kind of like an addiction. If you stop doing them just like that, you're going to miss it a lot. You might have a little bit habit withdrawal. So replacing them with a healthier habit is just a little bit easier. But it all comes down to consistency, just doing something over and over again. And it just kind of gets ingrained in our brains. We are creatures of habit, which is great and not so great at the same time. We have to use that to our advantage. Let's look at another example of setting a habit goal. let's say you are not working out at all right now and you want to work out 4 times a week. That's a pretty big goal. That's a pretty big jump, a pretty big change in your daily routine throughout the week. So break it down, set yourself a time frame, and break it down into little goals. And maybe you start with just one day, let's say every Monday at 5 p.m. you show up, you get dressed for the job, and you show up. This is your first milestone to hit consistently. And then from there, I mean, you're already there. You're probably going to do something. Maybe you stretch for 10 minutes or whatever, but you're there. Next thing is we're going to add a 10-minute warm-up and a 20-minute workout. Half an hour, it doesn't sound so scary, right? You've done this consistently, you can add more. Let's build up to like a full workout. From there, we move on to 2 days a week. When you've done that consistently, you go to 3 days a week. That goes great. Go to 4 days a week. Just, whatever works for you. Maybe you start out with coming 3 times a week and kind of just rolling around on the floor. You're going to have to try out what works for you there. Everybody works a little bit differently, but start small, set yourself milestones to hit. Once you've hit those consistently, add on from there. A habit goal can be a little bit trickier to reach than like a weight loss goal. So I personally wouldn't set myself a super strict time frame for that. But if that's a motivation for you, then you certainly can. It kind of really depends on you. But to summarize, how to set goals and how to form habits, it's clarify your goal like very clearly in all its elements, and then do your math and break it down into little milestones to hit. Check along the way. Set a realistic timeline. And, if something happens, then you have your plan and you can adjust it so you can still reach your goal on time. Pretty straightforward. All right, now that we have the beginning of the year out of the way, let's look at the Patreon questions. And the first question is, I get nauseous from doing sit-ups. How do I prevent that? To answer that, we have to look at the possible reasons first. Possible reasons could be dehydration. It could be overexertion or fatigue. It could be that your stomach is too full or that your digestion is not properly working. Maybe you're backed up a little bit. Maybe you didn't eat enough. So not enough nutrition. Or improper breathing of some type of way. Maybe you drop oxygen levels because you're breathing too shallow. A lot of people do that. Or maybe you're hyperventilating and you're about to pass out. Or maybe you're swallowing a lot of air during your workout. Or maybe you're holding your breath a lot and you just have too high of an internal pressure. All of those things can make you feel nauseous. And then another one, motion sickness. Yes, people can get motion sick from working out, especially when it's like a rocking motion, like in a setup or a crunch. That is actually pretty common. And the only thing that I can say about that is try to focus on one point. Try to focus on the horizon just like you would on a ship when you're motion sick, and keep your eyes steady on that. That's really all you can do if it's motion sickness. But let's look at the other ones. Let's look at breathing first, because most people are not breathing correctly, especially when they just started working out. The key to breathing during exercise is diaphragmatic breathing, and I'm going to link a video in that little info box that pops up in that corner. I think it's there. It might be there. Little info box in the corner. I made a video on diaphragmatic breathing. Check it out. Diaphragmatic breathing basically means that you are pushing your diaphragm down. That's a muscle that is across your torso, and it kind of separates your organs from your lungs. And if you contract that diaphragm, it pushes your organs down and allows your lungs to expand without expanding the rib cage and without expanding the belly. So not raising the chest, not pushing the belly out, but you still make more room for your lungs. That's diaphragmatic breathing. It's also called belly breathing a lot, but I don't like that term because people confuse it with pushing the belly out excessively, and that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is build more internal pressure, and that also goes hand in hand with bracing properly for working out, which most exercises will need a rigid torso, but crunches not so much. We'll get there in a second. One of my most often used cues in a workout is to keep the ribs down and the spine straight, because people tend to push out and lift the rib cage, and that is not optimal for creating intra-abdominal pressure at all. Ribs down, straight spine, breathing into the diaphragm. And you can practice that now. I'll show you. You can put your fingers just outside your abs, and then your thumbs kind of like in the back in that soft spot of your lower back. And then we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose. And you should feel it expand in your abs and in your lower back without your chest raising excessively. Push that out. You will feel it come in a little bit. So 365 breathing is really what diaphragmatic breathing does. Again, check out that video on that and practice that. If you're new to that, that might lead to a lot of shallow breathing. Shallow breathing is not good because we do not get enough oxygen into our body, and then we might feel sick or we get just super tired from it. So try to keep breathing as deeply and as smoothly as possible throughout your workouts. Crunches are a little bit different with the torso rigidity, with the rigid torso, because we do have to flex our spine forward to perform crunches. So we cannot lock our torso out entirely because there will be no flex then, right? And you will probably have to release some of that pressure in your abdomen, which means breathing out, right? So when you're doing any type of crunch or sit up, you generally want to breathe in as you're straightening out, and then breathing out as you're crunching in. If you're doing something like speed crunches where it's like really fast, you can already hear it. It's kind of like hyperventilating, and they're quick, shallow breaths, and there's no real way to avoid that really in a speed crunch situation. So I suggest if you do something like that, you do it at the end of your set. Like let's say you have a giant set, you do it at the end of your set and then rest right after. Make sure that you stretch out, you allow enough air to flow back in, slow deep breaths right after, make sure you recover. And the diaphragmatic breathing is something that I recommend you practice every day until you have it down like that. It's super helpful for you, not just for working out, but also in your daily life. We lift and we reach all day long for things. Just, reaching for my coffee cup over here. Ideally, I will do that hinging from the hips with a rigid torso, and that will be the best for my spine. So practice that diaphragmatic breathing and practice bracing your spine, and that will just, keep your spine so much healthier for the rest of your life. As for other factors that can make you nauseous, apart from the breathing, they kind of go hand in hand with the next question. So I'm going to answer them together. And the next question is, how do I get ready for a workout? To answer that, let's take a quick look at the different factors that can influence your workout, which would be rest and fatigue, or energy levels, hydration, nutrition, your mood, and things outside of your control, like your hormones, or indigestion, illness, sickness, whatever crazy shit that's going on, stress factors outside of your control, things like that. Can't really do much with that, so we're gonna look at these 4. Let's start with our energy levels in the beginning. So rest, fatigue, and that is also influenced by inflammation, stress. The higher your stress levels, the higher is probably your inflammation and the more exhausted you are. So in general, just managing stress and resting properly will set you up for success. Get a good amount of sleep every night. Get more sleep if you're feeling stressed out or exhausted. Take a nap, rest. Also, exercise momentarily increases inflammation levels. So you gotta make sure that you manage your inflammation outside of your workouts, especially if you have autoimmune disorders that get triggered by inflammation, like I do personally, or a lot of people who are following I know do. You want to make sure that you keep your inflammation generally low. And then if you have already high inflammation levels in your body, you want to adjust your workout accordingly. So think like lifting very heavy or super high intensity cardio or like a HIIT workout are a no-go, because those really trigger inflammation in the body. And even though it's just a short time span that happens during exercise, it can have a really high impact on the already high inflammation levels. So if those are high, do something more low-key, like a low-intensity cardio, Pilates, yoga, go for a walk, something like that. And generally speaking, for rest and fatigue, it's just mostly mo better. The more you have of it, the better it is. Sleep is fucking awesome. Sorry, I'm not supposed to do that. Next one, hydration. You want to aim for at least a minimum of 2 liters a day. That is a little less than half a gallon. Minimum. I would say even more, especially if you're working out every day or you're moving every day. If you just sit and you don't do anything, you're probably good with 2 liters. If you have a household to run, if you have kids or pets or anything at all, I would say shoot for 4 liters or shoot for a gallon. The more muscle you have, the more water you need. The more you speak, the more water you need, because we do lose a lot of water through that too. The more you sweat, the more water you need, so keep all of those factors in mind. Start with a minimum of 2 liters and work up to a gallon. And it's just important to hydrate properly throughout the day. If you have proper hydration throughout your day, there's no need to chug a big amount of water right before you work out. You should start early in the morning. First thing when you get up is drink a big glass of water, and then just, keep that up throughout the day, and you'll be fine. If you drink a lot of water right before you work out, you're just gonna have it sloshing around in your stomach, and that is something that can make you feel nauseous. Also during your workout, I know it's tempting, especially when it's super hot and you're sweating a lot, to chug a lot of water. You should avoid that. Take small sips throughout your workout, so you don't have a stomach full of water bubbling around in there. That's really, really uncomfortable. I have thrown up water quite a bit before because I disregarded my own advice. Be smarter than me. After you're done working out, just replenish with a big glass of water when you're done moving, and you'll be good. And nutrition, it's kind of the same. You want to keep steady blood sugar levels throughout the day. That just sets you up for the most even energy supply throughout the day. You want to avoid having a large meal or hard to digest food right before working out. Hard to digest are things like protein and fat. So like nuts or steak, stuff like that before your workout is probably not a good idea, because it will just sit there in your stomach. And again, a full stomach will make you feel nauseous. I would say eat a proper meal about 2 to 4 hours before your workout. Kind of depends on how fast your digestion is. While you are digesting, your body is directing a lot of energy into your stomach, and you need that in your extremities when you're working out. So you just don't want to have a full stomach when you work out. So 2 to 4 hours before you work out, have a proper meal. And then if you need a little bit more energy for your workout, you can have another snack about 30 to 45 minutes before. You should stick to easy digestible carbs, low protein, low fat for that snack. I like a banana. Sometimes I put a little bit of peanut butter on it if I need just a little extra. Or a slice of toast with some marmalade on it is great. Some cookies, I'll have those. I love cookies. Yeah, something like that. Fast digesting carbs are a great pre-workout snack. And a lot of people also like snacking throughout their workout if it's really heavy workout, or if your energy levels are super low. If you're starting out just working out, you will probably not need that. But if your workouts are 2 hours long and you're lifting heavy weights, or you're trying to push for a personal record or something like that, you might need some extra sugar in between. So drinking something that has electrolytes in it, those drinks usually have a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt. So that is something that will help you keep your energy levels up throughout your workout. Or you can eat a little bit of fast digesting carbs. Sour Patch Kids are super popular in the powerlifting industry. I suggest don't eat anything that has dairy in it, so no chocolate or something like that, because dairy does put that little film on the throat. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you're not supposed to have dairy products when you have throat pain either, because it just kind of puts that little, or before you sing either, because it just kind of covers your throat with a film. So you don't want that. I actually, for my birthday, I got these for my birthday, and I've been having those as a little intra-workout snack. You see, my birthday was in October, and I've had about half of them by now, because that's really all I use them for. I like chewy candy like this, because I can kind of just stick it to the top of my mouth while I work out. That's a personal preference, I guess. If you want something a little bit healthier along the whole 30 foods-ish line, you can opt for like dried fruit, something high in sugar, like apricots or dried cherries, something like that would be good. If you work out really early in the morning, it kind of depends. Not everybody tolerates food in the morning. I personally am not a huge breakfast fan, but I will have a breakfast if I have to exert myself physically early on in the day. Some people don't need that, some people do need that. It kind of just, you need to test that out, what your time of day is, where your energy levels are at, when you need your fuel. My highest energy throughout the day, the time of day where I personally lift the best, especially heavy weights, is early afternoon. So when I'm done digesting my lunch and I've had a little snack, and I'm halfway through my day and don't have to worry about doing too many things anymore, that is when I am most effective at the gym. So you'll have to find out when that is for you. And maybe your schedule doesn't allow that, and that kind of sucks, and you have to adjust your food accordingly. So you'll have to just try out what kind of works there for you, but generally empty stomach is what you want. Fasted cardio in the morning is a myth. You're not losing more weight because you didn't eat before you work out. Another thing that can help you focus and prepare for your workout is caffeine. You will see that caffeine is included in a lot of pre-workout drinks, which is a supplement that you can take before your pre-workout. They come with stimulants or stimulant-free, where stimulant-free means it is without caffeine. So if you're somebody who takes those later in the day, you might want to opt for that. A cup of coffee has about 90 milligrams caffeine, if I'm not mistaken, and a cup of tea has something like 70 to 80 milligrams, and pre-workout drinks usually have about 300 milligrams of caffeine, so it's quite a bit more. So be careful when you start out. I would even say, if you're new to working out, do not even dabble with supplements. If you're new to losing weight, do not dabble with any of that stuff. Just stay with normal food. Maybe have a coffee, like a shot of espresso before your workout if you feel like you want a little pick-me-up, but stay away from the supplements, especially in the beginning, because you want to figure out what works best for your body without any crack first. And when I say crack, I'm not really joking. There are pre-workouts on the market that are basically like Adderall, over-the-counter Adderall. So be careful, do your research, find out what is in the pre-workout before you take it, and before you even start dabbling in supplements, make sure that you know your own body first, and you know how to manipulate your own body with home remedies like coffee and carbs before you start taking crack. As for the mood has a big influence in your workout. You have two options there. You can either, one, disregard your mood and just get in the mode and do your workout, or you can use your mood as fuel, especially happiness and joy is a very strong emotion, or anger and frustrations are very strong emotions. And if you look at feelings in general, or triggers in general throughout the day, you can mostly burn them down into joy or anger, and those are great to use as fuel. Personal experience here, especially anger. Throwing weights around when angry, super fun. So high energy moods are great as fuel, but they can also distract you a lot. So it kind of depends if you want to use it or not. I personally use my warm up as my focus time. It's when I get into the workout, when I think about and let go of things. I use my warm-up for that, and I highly suggest you do that too. If you are a Patreon, you have access to the training diary sheet, and you will see that at the bottom it has a little mental health section, which includes a brain dump. So there you can write down, and you can do this in your own diary, of course, too. Just write down anything that's going on in your head right now that is distracting you from focusing on yourself and your workout, and just leave it there. And then do your workout. And if you want it back, what was on that little sheet, you can read it and bring it back into your brain. But if you don't want it back, if this was something that was bothering you for no reason at all, rip it out, burn it, get rid of it, done with it. So yeah, I think you should really dedicate your warm-up to focusing on yourself and setting intentions for your workout. When I say set intentions, like maybe you're feeling a little bit weak. It's your squat day, but you're feeling a little bit weak. So I would set the intention to work on my technique instead of beating myself up about the weight. So set your intention for the workout, the thing you want to focus on, and get in the zone. And then another thing that's a great influence on your workout is your warm-up. Warming up is super important, just like I said, because one, it's that mental preparation, but also two, it's because it's your physical preparation. And you should not neglect the warm-up. Looking at you, don't do it. I know you did the other day and you regretted it. So for the warm-up, you want to raise your heart rate. It doesn't have to be a super long warm-up. Raise your heart rate just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes on the treadmill, maybe some jumping jacks, air squats, something cardio to raise your temperature. Maybe you get that little first sheen of sweat. That's how you know that your heart rate is up there and your body temperature has risen. And then you want to incorporate active stretching and mobility work into your warm-up. If you're going to lift some heavy weights or you're going to do some complex movements, I suggest that you do movement-specific warm-ups, not just in your initial warm-up phase, but also right before you do those. Let's say you want to squat 500 pounds, you want to warm up with the squat patterns before, so movement-specific warm-ups. And just pay attention to problem areas in your warm-up. Set your intention, focus, and go. And then you're all set. Those are, I think, all the factors I can think of that influence your workout and that you should do to get ready for your workout or take care of to have the best workout ever. Next question. Next question is a two-part question. One is it the goal to keep lifting heavier and heavier weights, or is there a limit? And then, is there a limit for you personally? Let's answer the general part of this question first. It kind of depends. It really depends. There are different types of weightlifters, and it also kind of depends on if you're an athlete or just a hobby lifter, I guess. And then also it depends on the sport. Depending on the sport, the goal just really differs. Let's look at the main three types of weightlifting that I can think about, which would be powerlifters, Olympic weightlifters, and bodybuilding. Those are like the three things we mostly associate with lifting weights. Powerlifters, they seek to increase the amount of weight that they lift with proper technique in squat, bench, and deadlift. So they compete in that, right? So I don't think there really is a limit to how heavy they want to lift, but it's a personal thing. Olympic weightlifters, they seek to increase also the weight that they're lifting and the skill, and their main two lifts are the clean and jerk and the snatch. So I would say that there also is no limit to how heavy they want to do those, other than like personal limitation. And then the third one, bodybuilders, are different in that way because they seek to increase their muscle mass, or the size of their muscles, how big the muscle looks, but not how strong that muscle is or how well that muscle actually functions. So bodybuilders have a purely aesthetic goal, as opposed to Olympic weightlifters or powerlifters who do have the goal to lift heavy weights. I would say like the main goal is to lift heavier and heavier and heavier without limit for them, and the bodybuilder is to get more perfected in their physique without limit. Now, for me personally, I enjoy lifting heavy. It's just super fun. And I also enjoy learning new skills because I just like to be able to do things, and I like to do things well. And I've been following a powerlifting program for a little bit more than a year now, and I'm super in love with it, and I have no intention of stopping powerlifting anytime soon. With that being said, I also have no intention of competing in powerlifting ever. That's just not something that I want to do, even though or maybe exactly because I'm a competitive person, that's just not something that I want to put myself or my body through. Do I have personal goals? Yes and no. I would really like to bench 100 pounds. I would really like to squat 200 pounds, and I would really like to deadlift 300 pounds. But those are not like set in stone goals that I absolutely have to reach, and I will cry if I never do. Because like I said, it's a hobby for me, and it's not like something I want to compete in, and I'm not stone set on it either. I have a lot of physical issues from previous injuries with my knee that kind of went over into my hip and my shoulders that I'm still working on. So pushing really heavy in weight is just not what I want to do right now. I want my body to function as well as it can for as long as it can. And I don't see the point in going crazy with the heavy weights there, as long as it's fun. That's my answer. As long as it's fun, I'm gonna keep pushing. And that concludes this month's questions, and I hope you found the answers helpful and informative and maybe entertaining. And if you're a patron, please make sure to submit your questions for the next podcast. We're having 2 this month because we didn't have one in December, and we only have a very short amount of months left, so be on the lookout for that next podcast soon. Make sure to check out all the other videos on the channel. We got a few more coming in the next couple of days too. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, let me know what you thought, and I will see you in the next podcast. And until then, make sure you go and slay the day and get your beast mode on and get strong!